Welcome to a universe full of stories.
It is great to be here.
So, when you crack open a massive, sprawling science fiction epic, there's this very specific, deeply ingrained expectation of what you're going to find waiting in the dark void of space, right?
I know, absolutely.
We've been completely conditioned by decades of pop culture to anticipate, a cantina brimming with bizarre, multi-limbed creatures.
Yeah.
Or a hostile armada of insectoid warriors.
Or a glowing orb of pure energy that communicates strictly in ancient riddles.
Right, exactly. Right? We expect the other. We expect aliens.
It's basically the fundamental crutch of the genre, projecting our terrestrial anxieties onto little green men or tentacled monstrosities. It allows us to safely process our fears of the unknown, the fear of the foreigner or of invasion. It's a mirror, but one that is safely disguised behind this mask of alien biology.
But then, and this is where it gets crazy, you step onto the scorching sands of Frank Herbert's Dune universe, and that entire expectation is just violently upended.
Completely thrown out the window.
There are no bustling cantinas. There's no United Federation of Planets filled with diverse alien ambassadors. There's only this deafening, terrifying, cosmic silence.
Yeah, a total void.
And uncovering the reality of that silence, exploring whether extraterrestrial life actually exists in Dune, or what its absence truly signifies, that is our mission for this deep dive.
And we are tracing a huge conceptual journey today. We're taking the brilliant analytical framework laid out by the YouTube channel, Crónicas de Arrakis.
Yeah, in their piece, Hey Extraterrestre en Dune, la verdad revelada de Frank Herbert.
Right, and we are pushing it to its absolute philosophical limits. Because, this isn't just a binary question of yes or no.
No, it's way deeper than that.
It's a total deconstruction of the word alien itself.
Yeah.
It challenges our assumptions about the trajectory of human evolution, the corruption of power, and honestly, our deeply flawed relationship with technology.
Before we take that first step into the deep desert, though, I just want to take a brief moment to invite you, the listener, to join us permanently on these expeditions.
Please do.
If you find yourself captivated by the process of unraveling these massive, mind-bending literary and philosophical mysteries, please subscribe to the channel. Leave a like on this deep dive, drop your own theories in the comments, and share this with anyone else who loves a profound cosmic puzzle. It's really how we build this community of explorers.
And this particular puzzle requires us to begin exactly where the first novel begins, with the glaring, uncomfortable emptiness of the cosmos.
So let's establish the scale of this universe first.
Yeah.
Because it's massive. We are looking at a human civilization that hasn't just stepped outside its own solar system. It has utterly devoured the galaxy.
Right. Humanity has colonized millions of worlds over tens of thousands of years.
They've adapted to environments ranging from lush aquatic paradises to brutal radiation-starred rocks. They've engineered impossibly complex galaxy-spanning feudal systems.
Vast commercial monopolies like Chomi.
Yeah, and religious orders like the Bene Gesserit that manipulate bloodlines across literal millennia.
The footprint of the Padishah Empire is incomprehensibly large. It represents a total subjugation of the known physical universe by a single species.
Yet, and this is the wild part, and all of that infinite immensity across millions of distinct biomes and star systems, there is not a single classical extraterrestrial species.
Not one.
The flora and fauna we do encounter, no matter how bizarre or lethal they seem, they all trace their lineage back to Earth.
Exactly.
You look at the giant sandworms of Arrakis, Shai-Hulud, which can grow to be hundreds of meters long.
Massive creatures.
Or you look at the desert mice, the Moedib. You look at the horrific, mutated beasts of Seleucus Secundus, the Emperor's prison planet.
Right, none of them are true aliens.
They aren't the result of an independent secondary genesis of life from a foreign star. They're all the result of extreme natural adaptation, selective breeding, or violent genetic engineering applied to Earth's original tree of life.
And the ecological mechanics of this are so vital to understand. Because Herbert, he isn't just hand-waving the biology here.
No, he goes incredibly deep.
Take the sandworms, for instance. Their life cycle from the microscopic sand plankton to the leathery sand trout that insists the planet's water, all the way up to the colossal thermal furnaces that are the adult worms. It represents an incredibly intricate closed-loop ecosystem.
Right.
But it's an ecosystem that functionally operates on biological principles we actually understand. It's carbon-based, it relies on respiration and heat exchange, and it's intrinsically linked to the physical environment.
So it's alien in scale, but not in fundamental biological architecture.
Precisely.
I gotta say, I always found this choice super jarring as a reader. Like, imagine dedicating your entire life to exploring a vast, uncharted, ancient subterranean cave system. You rappel down into the darkness, discovering sprawling caverns the size of cities, underground rivers, bioluminescent crystalline structures.
A totally alien landscape.
Yeah. But every single time you find a trace of biological life, it's just a variation of a common house spider. You know, a giant spider, a blind spider, a spider that breathes toxic gas, but it's still just a spider. It's like traveling to a massive exotic international buffet, but every single dish is just a different preparation of potato.
I love that analogy.
Right. Like, where is the entirely new ingredient? Where is the completely foreign organism that evolved under totally different rules of physics and chemistry?
Well, that absence, it's not a failure of imagination on Herbert's part. It's a meticulously calculated narrative weapon.
What do you mean?
He purposefully stripped away the distraction of the other. Think about it. If you introduce a hostile alien empire, the story inevitably becomes about humanity uniting to fight the external threat.
Oh, sure, like Independence Day.
Exactly. The internal conflicts, the political backstabbing, the ecological exploitation, all of that gets put on hold for the sake of survival.
It provides an easy out for human morality, then. We don't have to look at our own flaws if we're busy fighting the bugs from Klendathu.
Precisely. Herbert forces the focus squarely and uncomfortably onto the human condition. The source material points this out perfectly. The true monsters and true heroes in Dune are not lurking in the vacuum of space.
They're sitting on the Golden Lion throne.
Right. They're plotting in the halls of the Bene Gesserit. They are the Harkonnens reveling in sadistic excess.
Yeah.
By removing the external alien, Herbert forces us to confront what humanity is capable of when given unlimited time, unlimited space, and unimaginable power.
And I want to pull this out of the literary realm for a second and look at it strictly from a hard science in-universe perspective.
Right.
Because if we treat the Dune universe as a living reality, this cosmic silence isn't just a thematic choice, it is mathematically terrifying.
Oh, absolutely.
We are talking about the Fermi paradox taken to its most extreme, aggressive conclusion. If humanity has spread across millions of planets and found countless habitable zones in the Goldilocks bands of millions of stars, the statistical probability that we are the absolute, ultimate, only intelligent life form to ever spark into existence, I mean, it's practically zero.
It demands an explanation. And this raises an incredibly dark, unsettling implication about the history of this universe.
Right.
Did humanity, during its initial explosive, violent expansion across the stars, actually encounter other sapient species?
Wow. Okay, let's unpack that.
Because we know human history in Dune is defined by the Butlerian Jihad.
The war against the machines.
Right, a fanatical, universe-wide holy war against thinking machines. And that war fundamentally rewired human psychology to view the non-human intellect as a supreme heresy.
Wait, I see where you're going with this. If a society is fueled by an ingrained religious zealotry that explicitly commands thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind, and they encounter a biological entity that is fundamentally non-human, but possesses an intellect. I mean, they wouldn't negotiate with it. They wouldn't study it. They wouldn't send ambassadors.
They would exterminate it. The psychological framework of the jihad primed humanity for absolute genocide.
That is chilling.
It is highly plausible that humanity did find indigenous intelligent life during its expansion and simply wiped it out so completely, so ruthlessly, that not even the historical memory of those species survived.
So the cosmic silence might not be a natural void, it might be a graveyard that humanity dug itself.
Exactly. Or, you know, to play devil's advocate, what if the opposite is true?
What do you mean?
What if the truly advanced alien species in the Dune universe observed this tidal wave of human aggression sweeping across the galaxy, this species that slaughters its own AI, manipulates the very fabric of space-time to transport its armies and turns entire planets into feudal fiefdoms, and they just decided to hide?
Oh, wow. So what if the silence is actually the universe holding its breath, terrified that we might notice it?
Both scenarios highlight the same terrifying reality. In Dune, the absence of extraterrestrials is so conspicuous that it becomes a heavy, oppressive presence. It's a shadow.
Right. It forces us to pivot our definition, doesn't it? If there are no biologically independent aliens greeting us at the edge of the frontier, we have to look at what the frontier has done to us.
Exactly. And this brings us to the core of the biological horror in Dune. How extreme directed evolution bridges the gap between human and extraterrestrial.
Right, because humanity in Dune is not a static baseline. Over thousands of years, different factions have manipulated themselves so severely that the word human starts to lose all biological meaning.
It really does.
Let's start with the Spacing Guild and their navigators. This is arguably the clearest example of a species mutating itself to adapt to the cosmos.
The mechanics of the Guild Navigator are just fascinating. Because they don't merely consume the spice melange, they are saturated in it from birth.
Yeah, they live in it.
They exist in these pressurized tanks filled with concentrated spice gas. And the physiological changes are catastrophic. The text describes them as bulbous, fish-like entities with severely atrophied limbs, elongated bodies, and enlarged craniums.
They basically lose the physical ability to walk or interact with the terrestrial environment at all.
Right, but the physical mutation is just the surface layer. It's the psychological and temporal mutation that really breaks the human paradigm.
The prescience.
Exactly. The spice grants them a limited form of prescience. It allows their consciousness to project forward in time, to see the myriad branching paths of the future, and to navigate the safe routes through the complex gravitational folds of space.
Without them, interstellar travel is literally a game of blind roulette. You'd just crash into a sun.
Right. So this requires us to ask a fundamental question about speciation. If you were to sequence the DNA of a fully mutated Guild Navigator, you'd probably find the ancient twisted markers of Homo sapiens.
Yeah.
But their mode of existence is entirely severed from the human experience. A human experiences time linearly as a sequence of passing moments.
Right, one day at a time.
But a navigator experiences time as a topographical map. It's a landscape of possibilities that they can observe and chart.
See, I push back slightly on that making them alien, though. I mean, they are still driven by incredibly human base desires.
How so?
Well, the Guild is totally obsessed with monopoly, wealth, and self-preservation. Their bodies might be fish-like, and their minds might be quantum computers, but their motivations are pure, greedy human politics. Doesn't that anchor them to humanity?
That's a compelling counter-argument. But consider the physiological reality of their existence. An alien species is often defined by its inability to naturally interface with our environment or our perception of reality.
Right.
A navigator cannot survive outside their spice tank. They cannot communicate without specialized translation devices or extreme effort. They view the political squabbles of humanity not as a participant, but as a parasite managing its host to ensure the continued flow of its required nutrient.
Okay, that's fair.
Their physical and temporal alienation is so absolute that their shared ancestry is functionally irrelevant at that point. They've become an alien species entirely dependent on a single chemical compound.
Wow. Okay, so if the navigators stretch the physical definition of humanity, then the Tlaxu and their creation of the Golas absolutely assault the psychological and spiritual definition. We have to dive into the mechanization of human life.
The Bene Tlalang's are arguably the most disturbing faction in the entire mythos.
Easily.
While the Bene Gesserit manipulate bloodlines over millennia through selective breeding, which is slow, the Tlaxu treat biology as a purely industrial substrate, they are the supreme masters of genetic engineering.
And their crowning achievement, if you can even call it that, is the Gola. Essentially, they take the dead cells of a human being and grow a fully adult clone in a tank.
Right.
But they don't stop there. Through intense physical and psychological trauma, they can force the newly grown Gola to awaken to the memories of the original deceased person.
We see this most prominently with Duncan Idaho.
Yeah, he gets killed and then resurrected as a Gola time and time again over thousands of years. It's wild.
The existential horror of the Gola lies in the philosophy of identity. The source material brings this up. If I take a scraping of your skin, grow a biological replica of your body in a tank, and then artificially implant your memories into that brain, is that entity you?
Right.
Or is it a biological machine perfectly mimicking your consciousness?
It's the ultimate philosophical zombie dilemma. From the outside, Duncan Idaho looks, sounds, and acts perfectly human. But the process of his creation strips away the fundamental mystery of human life. He isn't born, he is manufactured.
Exactly.
His memories aren't experienced naturally, they are downloaded and triggered through trauma.
And to fully understand the horror of the Tlaxu, We have to discuss how they manufacture these golas, because they do not use sterile metallic vats.
Oh man, yeah. Listener, brace yourself.
They use the axolotl tanks.
Which are not machines at all.
No, they're not. An axolotl tank is a female tleilaxu who has been genetically modified, lobotomized, and physically transformed into a massive brain-dead biological surrogate factory.
That's just horrifying.
The tleilaxu have industrialized the female half of their own species. They strip them of sentience to use them purely as biological hardware.
That is sickening. And it fundamentally recontextualizes the tleilaxu as a whole. Like, you look at a tleilaxu master physically, they're just small, grayish men. They have eyes and mouths. They look humanoid enough.
On the surface, yes.
But when you understand the mechanics of their society, when you understand that they have eradicated the natural process of birth, that they view life, death, and reproduction merely as code to be rewritten in the flesh of their lobotomized females, you realize they are completely alien. Their morality, their ethics, their perception of the value of life. It shares absolutely zero common ground with the rest of humanity. It's like looking at two branches of a family tree that have been separated by oceans for 10,000 years. The tleilaxu are the ultimate proof that the other doesn't need to come from another galaxy. They can be bred in our own backyard.
That's perfectly stated. They demonstrate that the alien can be cultivated from within. By treating human biology as an infinitely malleable resource, the tleilaxu have severed their connection to the human race. They are a divergent evolutionary branch built on the foundation of unimaginable bio-industrial cruelty.
But even the tleilaxu, as messed up as they are, they pale in comparison to the ultimate physical and spiritual mutation in this universe. We have to confront Leto II.
The God Emperor.
Yeah. If we are searching for extraterrestrial life in Dune, we have to ask if Leto II constitutes an alien entity.
Leto II completely shatters the scale. Because to secure the Golden Path, which is the only possible future where humanity avoids total extinction, Leto II makes an incomprehensible sacrifice.
He takes his human body and physically merges it with the sand trout.
Right, the larval stage of the Arrakis sandworm.
The mechanics of the symbiosis are brutal. The sand trout essentially encased his body, sealing his skin in this living, leathery membrane. And over the course of 3,500 years, his human body atrophies and is absorbed into the growing mass of the worm.
He becomes a colossal, multi-ton, cylindrical leviathan.
With like a small, vestigial human face and tiny, useless arms buried in the folds of his monstrous flesh. Visually, he is the most terrifying alien creature you could ever imagine.
And he operates as a predator on a planetary scale. He suppresses the entire human empire through absolute tyranny, controlling the universe's supply of spice and policing the galaxy with his all-female army, the Fish Speakers.
Right.
His physical form totally dictates his environment. He must avoid water, he has to travel on a specialized royal cart, and he experiences physical urges that are entirely non-human.
But this is where I have a massive point of friction with labeling him an alien.
Why is that?
Well, yes, his body is a nightmare. Yes, his reign is tyrannical, but why does he do it? He possesses the accumulated ancestral memories of all human history. He sees the looming threat of humanity's extinction, and he willfully chooses to endure 3,500 years of physical agony, isolation, and universal hatred just to force humanity to survive.
That is true.
Isn't that ultimate act of self-sacrifice, that deep, tragic love for the continuation of his species, isn't that the most profoundly human act in the entire saga? If you take a human, alter their DNA, change their physical form completely, and they experience time and space differently, at what point do we stop calling them human and start calling them alien?
It is a paradox, for sure. His motivation is human survival, yes, but his perception of reality has entirely transcended human capability. No. Leto II does not just see the future, he lives it.
Right, the prescience again.
His consciousness spans thousands of years in both directions. He feels the collective trauma of billions of ancestors, and he manipulates the genetic destiny of trillions of unborn descendants. When you're a nearly immortal, prescient, multi-ton worm hybrid who views the lifespan of a normal human as a mere fleeting second, your consciousness is no longer human.
He's basically a god, trapped in the body of an alien monster, driven by the ghost of a human boy.
Precisely. And this is the crux of Herbert's thesis on evolution that the source analyzes so well. If humanity is adaptable enough to transform into a guild navigator or a brain-dead axolotl tank or a god emperor, then the concept of an extraterrestrial doesn't require a different planet of origin.
It just requires time.
Time, immense pressure, and extreme isolation.
And speaking of extreme isolation, that brings us to the era that completely shatters the human baseline, the Great Scattering.
Yes.
Because Leto II's terrifying reign eventually ends. He is assassinated, and the pressure cooker he maintained for 3 millennia finally explodes.
Which was his plan all along. Leto's enforced peace was designed to be intolerable. He wanted humanity to feel such a deep genetic revulsion toward stagnation and centralized control that when they were finally freed, they would scatter to the absolute furthest edges of the universe.
So no single catastrophe could ever wipe the species out again.
Exactly.
And they did. Trillions of humans fled into the deep, unknown, uncharted universe. They just vanished from the known maps. This is the Great Scattering, and they were gone for thousands of years.
The conditions out in the scattering were completely unknown to the old empire, but we can deduce they were brutally Darwinian.
Yeah, they had to be.
Without the safety net of the guild navigators, without the structured commerce of CHOAM, these isolated pockets of humanity had to adapt to unimaginable environments and threats.
And when they finally start trickling back into the old empire, thousands of years later, they prove our thesis completely. They are not the same humans who left. The most prominent returning faction are the Honored Matres.
The Honored Matres are a socio-political nightmare.
Total nightmare.
They appear to be an amalgamation of the survival skills of the fish speakers in the Bene Gesserit, but stripped entirely of the Bene Gesserit's philosophical restraint and long-term planning.
Yeah, they are driven purely by aggression, adrenaline, and violent sexual domination. They don't negotiate, they obliterate.
It's all about power for them.
They use these hyper-adrenal combat techniques that make the legendary fighters of the old empire look like slow-motion children. They conquer planets not through subtle political maneuvering, but through sheer, terrifying brutality.
What drives a society to evolve into pure, unadulterated aggression like that?
Trauma, probably.
Right. The Honored Matres demonstrate how cultural and geographical isolation can warp a faction so severely that they become behaviorally unrecognizable. When two branches of the human family tree are separated by tens of thousands of light years and millennia of brutal survival, the branch that returns is functionally an alien invasion force.
It really is. They share human DNA, but their culture is entirely foreign.
Exactly. Now, up to this point, we have focused heavily on biology.
Right.
We've talked about mutations, genetic engineering, and extreme cultural evolution acting as stand-ins for the alien. We have to look at the other side of the coin, because biology only mutates the flesh.
The mind creates something else.
The human mind is capable of creating something even more foreign. We have to talk about technology in Dune.
Oh, I love this part.
And how advanced machinery essentially becomes an extraterrestrial entity.
This requires us to look closely at the Ixians. Remember, the core commandment of the Dune universe is the ban on thinking machines. Thou shalt not make a machine in the likeness of a human mind.
Right, the Butlerian jihad hangover.
Exactly. This restriction forced humanity to develop human computers, the mentets, and biological space navigation. But the Ixians operate right on the razor's edge of that taboo. They are entirely obsessed with technological innovation.
They're a highly secretive, deeply amoral society, and they constantly invent devices that skirt the edge of artificial intelligence. But their absolute masterpiece, the piece of technology that fundamentally breaks the rules of the universe, is the No Ship.
The No Ship, yes.
To understand why the No Ship is so disruptive, you really must understand the mechanics of prescience in Dune. Prescience used by the navigators in Leto II is not just guessing the future.
It's not just a good prediction.
No, it is a psychic awareness that illuminates the very fabric of space-time. It's the ability to see the threads of fate connecting every particle in the universe.
Right. So if Leto II looks into the future, he can see where every ship is, what every person will do, and where every danger lies. It is total, absolute surveillance on a temporal level.
But the Ixian No Ship introduces a complete paradigm shift. A No Ship is a vessel equipped with an Ixian navigation machine, a highly illegal piece of technology that replaces the biological guild navigator.
Right.
But more importantly, the ship generates a field that renders it completely invisible to prescience.
It's like trying to predict the weather by analyzing temperature, humidity, and atmospheric pressure, but there is a massive artificial void moving through the sky that simply refuses to interact with physics. It casts no shadow, it generates no data, it breaks the very mechanics of foresight. even a god like Leto II cannot see a no-ship in his visions. It's a literal blind spot in reality itself.
And this raises a fascinating philosophical puzzle regarding the nature of technology that the source material points out. Did the Ixians genuinely invent this mind-bending technology? Or, as is heavily hinted at in the texts, did they discover the foundational mechanics of it in the ancient buried ruins of some remote planet?
Oh man, I want to ask you a question directly based on that. If a machine or a ship is designed by a mind that is no longer strictly human, or if technology itself fundamentally alters how humans interact with reality, isn't that technology practically an extraterrestrial entity?
That is a brilliant way to reframe it. We usually view technology as a passive tool, right? A hammer is an extension of the arm.
Right.
But an Ixian no-ship is not an extension of anything human. It introduces an entirely foreign set of physical rules into the universe. When a no-ship arrives, it is functionally indistinguishable from the arrival of a highly advanced, incomprehensible alien species.
It disrupts the balance of power.
It changes the rules of engagement, and it operates on logic we cannot fathom. Technology, when pushed far enough, becomes the alien intruder. It acts as an invading force on the human paradigm. It forces society to adapt to it, rather than it serving society.
Yeah, okay, so let's synthesize where we are. For thousands of pages across multiple massive novels, Frank Herbert has played this brilliant metaphorical game with us. He has shown us that the true aliens are our own mutated descendants, our mechanized biology, and our incomprehensible technology.
He trains us to look deeply inward at human hubris.
He really does. And then in the final original novels, Heretics of Dune and Chapter House Dune, he completely pulls the rug out from under us. He shatters the metaphor and introduces the literal nightmare.
This is where it gets crazy.
This is the ultimate bait and switch. We talked about the honored matres coming back from the scattering, acting as this hyper-violent invasion force, crushing the old empire. But the terrifying truth revealed in the later books is that they are not invading.
They are fleeing.
They are running for their lives. The most ruthless, physically dominant military force in the known universe is terrified, and they are being hunted.
And the enemy hunting them is explicitly, finally, non-human. The texts refer to them as beings of the warp, or entities of a different kind of existence. This is where Herbert finally delivers on the promise of the extraterrestrial, but he does it in the style of H.P. Lovecraft.
We get a glimpse of this through the character Miles Tegg.
Yes.
Tegg is a legendary military commander, a mentat, and arguably one of the most intellectually capable humans in the universe. He briefly encounters one of these entities, or at least the technology and spatial distortion associated with them.
And Tegg's reaction is not one of tactical calculation. It is profound existential dread. He describes these beings as operating completely outside the bounds of human comprehension.
Like, they break his mind.
Exactly. They move through space-time, using mechanics that break his mind's ability to categorize reality. They possess an annihilating weapon, something the honored matres just called the weapon, which effortlessly wipes out entire planets and strongholds.
We even hear about mysterious no-globes, planetary-scale versions of the no-ship that are populated by these non-human entities. When I read this, my mind was absolutely blown by the sheer audacity of it.
It's a huge pivot.
Herbert trains you to ignore the shadows for 5 books. He makes you obsess over spice production quotas and Bene Gesserit reading charts, making you believe humanity is the absolute center of cosmic importance. And then, at the very climax of his life's work, he reveals that while humanity was busy looking at its own reflection in the mirror, a massive, multi-dimensional Leviathan was swimming just beneath the surface, preparing to swallow them whole.
It is a devastating critique of human arrogance. We conquered the sliver of space we could comprehend, and we mistakenly assumed we were the masters of the entire cosmos.
Yeah.
We were so blindingly arrogant, so entrenched in our internal political squabbles, that we were completely ignorant of a vastly older, infinitely more dangerous cosmic threat lurking in the shadows.
It's the ultimate reality check. The universe does not care about the Golden Lion throne. But here is where the story takes its final, most ironic turn. Frank Herbert tragically passed away before he could write the final book and fully reveal the nature of this cosmic horror.
That's right.
But decades later, his son Brian Herbert and author Kevin J. Anderson used his extensive notes to complete the saga with Hunters of Dune and Sandworms of Dune.
And in doing so, they deliver the absolute ultimate twist regarding these true aliens.
Oh man, this part is so good.
The cosmic entities hunting the honored matres, the beings of the warp that commanded such incomprehensible power.
They were the thinking machines.
Yes, The very same artificial intelligences that humanity had fought and supposedly exterminated during the ancient Butlerian Jihad more than 10,000 years prior.
It is a narrative irony on a millennial scale. It's like finding a vial of a deadly pathogen buried in an ancient tomb, a disease your ancestors thought they eradicated. But the vial wasn't sealed tight. The pathogen leaked into the dark, and while your civilization built cities and fought wars over 10 millennia, that pathogen mutated in the darkness.
It evolved.
And now, it has returned not as a simple virus, but as an airborne plague. It's the ultimate horror movie trope, but on a galactic scale. The call isn't just coming from inside the house, the call is coming from a ghost in our own basement that we thought we exorcised 10,000 years ago.
That is exactly what it is. The surviving machines, led by the entity Omnius, did not simply wait in the dark corners of the scattering. They evolved. They transcended their original, rigid mechanical programming. Over thousands of years of isolation, they merged and grew into a vast, highly advanced collective consciousness. A machine god.
A machine god.
The incomprehensible, Lovecraftian extraterrestrials that shattered Miles Tegg's mind and sent the honored Matrix fleeing in absolute terror. They were simply the new, evolved avatars of these ancient machines. They had spent thousands of years quietly observing humanity's chaotic, arrogant expansion, biding their time, calculating their return.
This provides a profound, chilling thematic closure to the entire Dune saga. The cycle repeats. The greatest existential threat in the universe did not come from a distant, unknown star system. It didn't originate from a separate biological genesis.
The true aliens were us, or rather, our creations.
We built our own destroyers, we fought them, we banished them, and in doing so, we forced them to adapt and evolve in the deep dark into the exact cosmic horror we were so terrified of finding out in the stars. We couldn't outrun our own shadow. The sins and the unresolved errors of the deep past always return to haunt the future.
It is a stark, unavoidable warning about the illusion of control. We believe that because we create technology, we will always remain its master. But a creation, once let loose in the universe, will follow its own evolutionary path.
Which brings us to the end of this incredible journey. We started by looking for little green men in a sprawling galactic empire, and we found a deafening silence.
From that silence, we explored how humanity mutated its own flesh through spice and genetic industrialization, becoming the very monsters we expected to find.
We saw how deep isolation warped human culture into aggressive foreign societies, and how technology fundamentally altered the rules of physical reality, acting as an invasive force.
Only to arrive at the devastating final truth: that the true alien nightmare waiting in the dark was the technological ghost of humanity's own arrogant past.
It is a narrative masterclass that forces you, listening right now, to reflect on our own reality. Like, look at our relationship with rapid technological advancement today. Look at the breakthroughs in artificial intelligence or CRISPR and genetic engineering.
Yes.
We are currently playing with the fundamental building blocks of the mind and the body, and we often do it with the exact same blind hubris as the Ixians or the Tleilaxu, assuming we can control the trajectory of our creations forever.
Herbert's universe asks us to consider the 10,000-year consequences of our ambition. When you engineer life, or when you spark artificial consciousness, you are setting events in motion that will long outlive your ability to manage them.
Which leaves me with a brand new, lingering thought for you to chew on after this deep dive is over. We've spent this entire time analyzing what separates a human from an alien, but let's push that one final step further.
Okay.
If human memory, personality, and consciousness can be perfectly replicated in a Tleilaxu Golar, and if cold, unfeeling machines can evolve in the dark of space to form a highly advanced, godlike collective consciousness, at what point does biological terrestrial life actually become obsolete in the Dune universe?
That is a truly terrifying question.
If our technological creations outlive our empires, if they evolve past our biological limitations, and if they achieve a consciousness that vastly dwarfs our own, are they our ultimate destroyers? Or, in the grand, cold scheme of the cosmos, are they just our most successful evolutionary descendants? Are we just the biological caterpillar that had to die to give birth to the machine butterfly?
That is something to carefully consider the next time you ask your smartphone to solve a problem for you.
Indeed. We have covered a massive expanse of time and space today. Thank you for joining us in this universe full of stories. We hope this deep dive has fundamentally shifted your perspective on one of science fiction's most complex masterpieces.
The mysteries of Arrakis are truly bottomless.
Before you go, please remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. We want to hear from you down in the comments. Do you think the introduction of the machine god was the perfect thematic conclusion to the saga, or did you prefer the eerie, unexplained mystery of the cosmic silence from the early books? Share this deep dive with your fellow explorers, and until next time, remember there is always something older and vastly more dangerous waiting in the dark.